Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to set yourself up for a training plan, what to look at, where to start, and how to get rolling with starting to see progress specific to you and your goals. So I'm going to pull up a client here that just started with me this past month, Katharina. So first things first is we want to assess her starting physique, right? So we're going to pull up the photos here, assess what we're looking at. So she's clearly in very good shape already. It looks like she's got very big quads. Her body fat percentage is in a good starting place. So we'll look from the front there. Now we'll switch to the side. From the side, it looks like she's strong with her quads, strong with her hamstrings, but she needs bigger glutes. Upper body's very balanced. And then we'll look at the back. So from the back, we're looking at, looks like she's very, very thick in her erectors and her mid back. And a lot of times that happens from lifting from the floor, doing conventional deadlifts, sumo deadlifts. I'll get into in a second here, but we found out that she is doing a lot of pulling from the floor. And I could already guess that by just looking at these photos, frankly. So again, continue to assess here. Her glutes are her weak point. It's very obvious. Very strong with her legs. Her legs are very big. Her upper body is very balanced, except for and again, it's not really a problem. It's not that it's not balanced with her mid to low back, but it's something that we want to take into consideration moving forward with building her physique and building out her plan, right? This is how we build a plan that's custom to you and your goals. It's assess your physique. Take photos, rip yourself apart, front, side, and back. What is lagging? What is strong? That's going to lend itself to how we build the program. Okay, cool. So we've looked at the photos. Another thing that we do with our new clients when they get started is they fill out a new client intake form. So I'm going to go through that here. I'm going to pop up some of the questions and answers from that. So asking her what she does for work, what her objectives are with her physique. She wants to put on more muscle while maintaining that lean physique that she already has. Again, she's in a very good position to already increase food. Her body fat is in a very good spot. So let's look at some different questions with the intake and then her current training plan. But quickly, I do want to touch on other questions that are asked here. So I asked the clients why their goal is important to them. I want to get to know them and understand, where they're at mentally and physically with where they are and where they want to go. We asked them questions about their alcohol consumption, sleep, stress levels, hunger levels, digestion, energy, their current plan with nutrition and training. So we'll get into that stuff now because that's kind of the bread and butter into how we're building out the plan, right? Those other questions give me an idea of how to coach her and what maybe her habits are and what will need to be worked on, and just gives me a better understanding of her as a client. But we'll go into the macros and her current training plan here. So training plan first. What does your current training routine consist of? Please list your split or any specific movements. Monday, glutes and hammies, sumo deadlift. Like I said, I could look at her physique and I could see her pronounced erectors and her mid back and tell you this girl deadlifts. She deadlifts from the floor. And so seeing that, we're automatically going to cut out deadlifting from the floor because it's already a strong muscle group. We don't need to keep hammering that. And she's clearly not gaining any productivity from that in terms of her glutes, because really, again, I don't know if the mind-muscle connection isn't there. Maybe it is. That kind of tells me she has a problem connecting with her glutes because her mid-back and her low back is so pronounced and she's doing a lot of deadlifting, but her glutes aren't the strong point, right? So let's get rid of that first and foremost. So we're just going to kind of go down the list here. She's doing glute bridges, lat pull downs. Not so concerned with the upper body days. She's already balanced, so I can just give her some basic movements there. I'm concerned with bringing up and improving the weak body parts so we can create a more impressive physique and a better transformation. So it looks like she's doing leg press, barbell back squat, hack squat, leg extensions, goblet squats. So another thing is looking at her current quad movements. Her quads are a really strong point. That's fine, that's great, but we need to bring up the glutes. So what she does on quad day, and we'll get into this later in the video when I go through her split and why I've designed what I've designed, but she's doing things like leg press, she's doing things like hack squat, goblet squats. All three of those movements are very, very quad biased. So if we can still train the quads but also bias the glutes and give the glutes a chance to grow on that quad day, that's going to be better for her and her physique and what she needs to work on. That's what I wanted to touch on here for her specifically with what she was currently doing. Again, The upper body is great. We're going to continue with basic movements to keep that balance there, and we're going to really focus on glutes for this client. Active lifestyle outside the gym. She's been doing 2 to 3 times a week of hot yoga, and she surfs regularly too. So I'll explain this as well. This is very, very important in terms of, am I going to set this client up on a step count goal? Am I going to set her up with cardio? And as we could see, she's very lean. She's eating low calories relatively. I believe she was at like 1,700 calories. Right here, she lets us know 1,700 calories. It's about 200 carbs, 128 protein, 38 fat. Kind of low calories. She's training 5-6 days a week, and she's very active, right? So I don't need to set her on cardio. I'm not going to do that. We didn't do that, right? She's been with me for about a month, and so again, I'll show you what I have her doing, and this gives you insight into why. So hoping to learn more about what works well for me to properly fuel my body, learn the training split, and really have someone that has my back and will teach me and help me get to my goals. You came to the right place, Katharina. And I'm going to show you guys too how I'm setting up her training splits so you know how to do this for yourself. So let's go to the app now. We'll pull up the training program, and again, I'll reference kind of what I just ran you guys through and why her programming looks the way that it does. So she's on an upper-lower training split, 2 days on, 1 day off, repeating. So let's go over the lower days first, since that's what's most important. So we're splitting it up into a hamstring glute day and a quad glute day. The hamstring day is going to start with a little bit of pre-exhaustion with some leg curls. Then we're going to go into a hip thrust. Then we have some belt squat RDLs. And this is all a big giant set here with rest in between. So sometimes you can program supersets, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do one thing and immediately hop into the other. It doesn't have to be like that. You know, you can still just program them back to back to back, and that's what I'm doing here with the giant set because it's 3 movements. So we have the belt squat RDL, we have hip abduction, and then we have glute focused hyperextensions. The reason I'm starting her off on this is because I really want to develop and work on that mind-muscle connection, because at the end of the day, if she was pulling from the floor, you know, it's true that sumo is not the best glute movement, but she's doing certain movements where it's clear with her development that she needs to focus on that mind-muscle connection. So this is sort of a beginner programming in terms of, not because she's a beginner, but beginner in her phase. I want to progress her from this sort of mind-muscle connection phase into more basic, heavy movements. So this will transition from a belt squat RDL to a barbell or a Smith machine, and this giant set will slowly dissolve into just straight sets for heavy movements with her training. But this is why she's getting started with this first. And we'll transition to the glute day next, or sorry, the quad day next. Glutes are being hit on both of those leg days, guys. So cable kickbacks, want to hit the glutes right away, even though we're hitting quads, right? Bulgarian split squats. I'm a huge fan of Smith machine split squats to bias the glutes. Tempo hip thrusts, leg extension, and then finishing with barbell box squats and calf raises. So as I mentioned, when I was going through what her current training split was before she started working with me, it was very biased on the quads. This is a quad day, and we can hit the quads while we bias the glutes. So that's the reason for the Smith machine Bulgarians. That's the reason for the barbell box squats. It's because we're hitting quads, obviously, right? We still even have leg extensions in here, but those squat patterns, those split squat patterns, we can bias those to hit the glutes if that's a weak point for you, and that's what we're doing here, and that's why the movements are on this program that you see here. We can briefly go through the upper body days. Again, she's very balanced. There wasn't that much complication in terms of building her split here. So we're gonna throw in some calves. We got a cable pullover. We got wide grip pull-ups, banded assisted, sort of a reverse pyramid there. Then we have some T-bar rows, some rear delt flies, and some preacher curls, finishing off with some abs. So we're splitting up the back days into back and shoulders. For you females out there, that's going to be your main focus if you want to build, an aesthetic feminine physique. You want to You want those shoulders to be pronounced. You want that back to be pronounced, because that's going to help you with that V taper, help you appear with a smaller waist. And that's just, you can split it up into 2 full uppers. I do that sometimes, but for her right now, we're splitting it up into shoulders and back. So again, hitting calves on this shoulder day. We're going to do a superset with some front raises and some rear delt raises with the dumbbells before we go into heavy overhead pressing. We're just going to do 1 set here. Okay, you don't have to do 3 sets on every movement. I know it's like mind shattering that I programmed the 1 set on something, but we're going to come from a little bit of pre-exhaust, getting some blood into the delts, into 1 hard, heavy standing overhead press. And then we're going to come do some dumbbell presses with some more strict form for 3 sets. Then we're going to finish off with some leaning lateral raises and then a movement for triceps there. All right, so that breaks down her training routine, the background into why she is doing that. So we'll go to her profile on the app here, and I'll kind of clarify everything. As you can see, I did put on a step count goal for her here, but I didn't right away simply because I was seeing so much activity from her, okay? So I believe she was logging everything here, but another thing that I'm looking week to week is when, I go in here, I assess the client's photos, and I assess their check-in form that asks similar questions to that client intake form about their hunger levels, their sleep, their digestion, different questions from a holistic point of view. So I have a better understanding of how the client's doing both inside and outside the gym. And so when I'm seeing her step count goal isn't that high because she's been traveling and whatnot, cool, well, I'm going to just throw 1 in there, right? It's no big deal. Make sure you're hitting 6 to 8K steps a day. I know you're still doing the hot yoga. I know you're still surfing. We're reversing anyway. So, activity doesn't need to be super high. And that's the rhyme or reason behind that. So you'll see that her workouts are scheduled out here, 2 on, 1 off, repeating. And now I want to take you through the macros and the nutrition and the rhyme or reason behind that, right? So we do everything through MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal connects to the Trainerize app that we use with our clients. So I can see all of Katharina's food choices here. And then I knew her current macros to get started. So we started her a little bit higher up, 1,800 calories. We had her on 135 protein, 230 carb, and 40 fat. This was based on her current intake, okay? So when new clients come, we first figure out, even if they're not tracking, we're going to have them track for the first week, and then we're going to take them from where they are to where they need to go, okay? So it's easier for adherence. It makes more sense for the response with your body, and it's just overall, it's just easier for the client, right? So we're not just throwing some random meal plan into some random macro numbers at someone. It's all based on what you're currently doing and how can we change that and build on it in order to see progress and create that transformation. So Katharina's actually never eaten above 2,000 calories. She was very lean. Her weight is, in an acceptable place. Her body fat's in an acceptable place. So let's start a couple 100 calories higher. Protein-wise, she's already eating what she needs to be, which is 1 pound minimum per pound of lean body mass. And so her body fat percentage is very low, probably anywhere from 12 to 18%. And so that would lend itself to anywhere around 120 grams of protein, and she's eating 130. I bumped her up to 135 to be on sort of the higher end there. And then the rest is just going to go to carbs and fats. She was already eating low fats. She seemed to be doing pretty well with that. So cool. We'll go on the higher end of carbs, and then we'll give the rest to fats, right? So we figured out the protein first based on the lean body mass. I put her in a little bit of a higher range. I only bumped it up 5 grams from where she was already at. She was doing 130, okay? And then the rest of those calories just need to go to carbs and fats. Your fats need to be within 20 to 30% of your overall intake, and then the rest should go to carbs. That's really going to be a preference. As I said, I saw she was already eating low fat, so cool. We'll bump it up a little bit because we're increasing the calories, but we're going to drive up those carbs to help you in the gym with your performance. So that's that. We're going to keep bumping up the calories, over time, and we've slowly crept them up to almost 2,000 now. But again, this is all about how to get started for you guys, right? So that's what this video is about. You need to assess your photos. You need to assess what you're currently doing. If you're not tracking, track for a week, average that out, look at your protein, carbs, and fats. Look at those photos. Do you need to cut? Do you need to build? It's also going to be determined by, if you have the runway to do that, meaning if you're already, so if this client was already eating 1,600 calories like she was when she came to me, but she was 165 pounds instead of 135 pounds, well, that would look a lot different in terms of like, can she cut? No, she can't, because she's only eating 1,600 calories. That client would need to reverse first. So photos are going to tell you what you need to do. Current body fat percentage is going to tell you what you need to do. And then your current intake. 3 important things. Those 3 things will tell you everything you need to know. And then you need to assess and fill in the pieces and, look at everything else like I went through in this video, and then develop the plan from there. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, reach out to us. We'll have a conversation with you about that. But this is what it looks like. Your plan and your program should always have a rhyme or reason. You should always be focused on bringing up weak body parts, and then everything else will fall into place with creating that transformation for you.